Who's this down here?
Hey, who are you?
Dad. Is that your dad?
What happened?
What happened? He came down. There was a man.
Who else is here?
My sister. She's back? Yeah, she's in her room. Is she okay? I think so.
Hey, oh.
Third victim. Third victim?
Yeah.
It was an ordinary day in Iowa. A calm June afternoon, the wind was still, and the temperature hovered just above 77 degrees Fahrenheit. The suburbs of Cedar Rapids were as peaceful as ever, until a frantic 911 call shattered the calm at 8 a.m. on June 15, 2021. On the other end of the line was a young male voice, slightly shaky, but trying to stay composed. "I've been shot. My family's been shot. Please come quickly." The address is 44 Fortorn Oak Leaf Court. The caller was Alex Jackson, a 20-year-old. He reported that an intruder had broken into their home through the back door, and during a struggle with a semi-automatic rifle, his father was shot and he himself was hit in the leg. It sounded like a standard home invasion. But that was merely the surface of a tragedy waiting to be uncovered. When police arrived, the scene inside the house silenced even the most seasoned officers. Alex's father lay dead in the living room, blood seeping into the carpet. In two back bedrooms, his mother and younger sister had both been shot in the face at point-blank range. No one survived except for Alex. Strangely, Alex was barely injured. The bullet wound in his leg was shallow, avoiding bone and major arteries. A doctor later described it as superficial, clean, and appearing self-inflicted. As forensics began combing through the scene, they made a disturbing discovery. There was absolutely no sign of forced entry. All the windows were intact, the back door was locked from the inside. No foreign footprints, no ransacked rooms, no missing valuables. Even the mother's purse, father's wallet, and sister's phone were right where they should be.
County Sheriff, where's your emergency?
Someone broke into our house. Our address is 4414 Oak Leaf Court, Northeast. I've been shot. My other family member's been shot. I need help immediately.
Okay, I'm getting Cedar Rapids on the line here.
I've been shot in the foot.
Okay, sir, stay on the line.
Start another 52. Justin, you guys are both Corey, you and Justin, you upstairs. Kurt, want to go upstairs with them? Jim, do you want to help the one with your foot?
This all needs to be cleared out, though. We got a door here. Who's this down here?
Hey, who are you?
My dad. Is that your dad?
What happened?
What happened? He came down. There was a man. Who shot your
Who
dad?
else is here?
My sister. She's back? Yeah, she's in her room.
Is she okay?
I think so. What's her name? Sabrina?
Sabrina?
Is that a room right there?
Yeah.
Sabrina!
Did you already got this behind us? I did. I got that. Oh,
Sabrina! Hey!
Police!
One subtle but chilling detail caught investigators' attention. 3 bowls of noodles sat on the kitchen table, one of them still steaming. The family had clearly been preparing to eat breakfast when the murders occurred. The time of death was estimated to be around 7:40 a.m., just 20 minutes before Alex's call. At this point, Alex was being taken to a local hospital. Although police couldn't conduct a formal interview yet, they assigned an officer to accompany him, watching for any unconscious remarks or emotional reactions, or rather, the lack of them. And then, another surprise came. While being treated, Alex repeatedly asked, "Can I go home soon? How long will this take? I don't want to stay here too long." He never asked about his parents. He never mentioned his sister. He didn't shed a single tear. Lead investigator, Lieutenant Samuel Brenner, would later recall, "I've seen hundreds of kids lose their families, but I've never seen anyone so calm. He looked like he was just waiting to finish the paperwork and go back to his life, even if that life no longer had a family." Immediately, a full-scale investigation was launched. A special task force of over 20 members was assembled, including homicide detectives, forensic experts, data analysts, and criminal psychologists. Their mission was clear: to find the person responsible for the massacre that shattered a peaceful morning. Yet from the earliest hours, the focus of the investigation began shifting to the only survivor. Security camera footage from neighbors revealed no sign of any unfamiliar individual approaching the Jackson home between 10 p.m. the night before and 8 a.m. the next morning. It was a quiet cul-de-sac, no rear access, no shortcuts. Anyone entering had to come through the front, and no one did. One neighbor, living directly across the street, reported hearing a loud argument from the Jackson house around 10 p.m. A young man's voice was yelling, "I don't need anyone telling me how to live. This is my house." Then came the sound of crying and what seemed like a physical scuffle. Another detail, though small, proved significant. The neighbor's dog, known for barking at strangers, was completely silent that night. This further weakened the theory of an unknown intruder. And so the question loomed, was there ever an intruder at all? Or was this a poorly staged cover-up for something far more horrifying?
Carlton, what if you need to go? Are you with me? With me. Hey, put out. Inside. Look you white. I got it. I'm not on the gun. 105, be advised, we got units inside, we take in the kitchen. We think he's in the room, four-corner bedroom, the way we barricaded. Again, be advised, he's inside, we think he's barricaded in the four-corner bedroom. Crate is empty. Is that a joint? That was a joint? What is your joint? Is it a joint? No, small closet. Let's get inside.
No one could have predicted that this case would go beyond simple murder. It would unravel a deeper family tragedy, where a young man, cornered by expectations, responsibilities, and personal failure, chose the most brutal path to escape it all. The truth behind it all was about to unfold. But first, the police needed one thing: the truth from Alex Jackson himself.
Come over here, where are they? Huh?
George Forever has the RP outside.
Police! Who's up there? Sir, stay down there. Hey, police! Let me see your hands. Hey, let me see your hands!
What?
Let me see your hands!
What?
George Forever, code 33, have blood in the hallway. I'm upstairs, making contact with the subject.
Yeah.
Sir, get down!
George Forever has code 30.
Hey, sir, hey, put the knife down! Put the knife down!
George Forever night.
Hey, bring ERW, you have 222. Hey, get down!
Oh, you're ready to fly,
you little
bitch!
I'll shoot you, dude!
Jackson was admitted to the hospital, with 2 officers stationed outside his room. Once stabilized, a detective was assigned to speak with him informally. No lawyer was present. Alex agreed to talk. He repeated the story he had given to 911. An unknown man had broken into the house through the back door. He described the intruder as a black male wearing green clothing and sneakers. When Alex saw him, he claimed to have grabbed the family's semi-automatic rifle to protect his relatives. A struggle ensued, and during the fight, his father was shot and Alex was wounded in the leg. Then the intruder fled. Alex said he didn't know when his mother and sister were killed. However, detectives immediately noticed major flaws in his story. First, the intruder's description was vague and lacked detail. Second, if the intruder had gained control of the gun and murdered the entire family, why leave Alex alive, and why steal nothing? Third, and most critically, all 3 victims had been shot in the face at close range, while Alex sustained only a superficial leg wound that didn't match a life-threatening altercation. When asked how the intruder entered, Alex insisted it was through the back door. But the crime scene investigation told a different story. The door was locked from the inside, with no signs of forced entry or tampering. All windows were intact. No foreign footprints, no broken glass, no sign of a struggle. The home was untouched. Now, the questioning shifted. Investigators asked why his father, Marvin Jackson, a strong man with military experience, would lose control of the weapon so easily. Alex dodged the question, mumbling that things happened fast. Then came the timeline. Alex said he woke up around 7:10 a.m., walked to the kitchen, and encountered the intruder. But if so, why didn't his mother or sister hear anything and respond? Where were they during the struggle? Asked about the rifle, Alex said it was kept in his father's closet. However, forensic analysis showed no evidence of a physical struggle near the weapon. The gun wasn't damaged or scratched, nor did it have signs of being dropped or yanked. An unsettling observation followed. The treating physician noted that Alex exhibited no signs of trauma. His heart rate was steady, his breathing calm, his body language neutral. Even more disturbingly, the nurse reported that Alex had fallen asleep just hours after surgery for his leg wound. Meanwhile, police began investigating Alex's background. They discovered he had dropped out of college nearly a year ago without informing his family. Every day, he pretended to go to class but instead spent time at a local internet cafe playing games. His father, Marvin, had recently uncovered the truth and confronted him. According to neighbors, Marvin demanded that Alex get a job within a week or move out. The pressure was mounting, and then detectives uncovered a digital trail that would shift the entire investigation. Alex's phone search history revealed disturbing queries just 24 hours before the murders. Is a gunshot to the leg fatal? Headshot death rate? And does insurance pay out if family members die? These searches became indirect evidence suggesting premeditation. But the most chilling discovery came from a voice recording on his sister's phone. Sabrina Jackson, 17, had secretly recorded an argument with her brother 1 week prior. In the clip, Alex was heard screaming, "I'm the only one who belongs here. No one else has the right to tell me what to do." Sabrina could be heard sobbing, pleading, "Please stop, don't be like this." At this point, suspicion evolved into near certainty. But to build a solid case, detectives needed Alex's story to collapse from within. They didn't arrest him yet. Instead, they continued their tactical questioning at the hospital with a specially trained team of interrogators. For over 3 hours, they dissected every part of his account. Why did the murder weapon have blood from the victims, but no foreign fingerprints? Why were 3 people shot at close range, yet there were no signs of struggle in any room? Why would a cold-blooded killer vanish without a trace, leaving only Alex, who conveniently wasn't shot in the head? There were no logical answers. And that's when the case took a definitive turn. The investigation no longer revolved around an intruder. It revolved around Alex Jackson, the son, the storyteller, and very likely, the killer. When the initial questioning no longer allowed Alex Jackson to maintain his calm demeanor, detectives switched tactics. They applied the vice grip strategy, pressure from forensic findings, psychological angles, and social dynamics, forcing the suspect to reveal inconsistencies. They began with a simple question. If you really struggled with an armed intruder, why don't you have any bruises or scratches, except for a gunshot wound in your leg? Alex hesitated. He claimed the intruder may not have attacked him physically, just wrestled the gun away. But the crime scene told a different story. No overturned furniture, no signs of struggle in any room. The house was immaculate, the sofa cushions remained in place, nothing resembled a life-or-death fight. Detectives then revealed a chilling observation. When your mother and sister were shot, no neighbors heard any screams. That only happens if the victims never saw it coming. It suggested that the murders were sudden, calculated, and left the victims defenseless. This pointed to someone who knew the house layout well, someone like a family member, not a random intruder. At this point, the lab results were introduced. Blood found on Alex's t-shirt matched his sister Sabrina's DNA. The spatter pattern was not consistent with a scuffle. It indicated droplets falling from above, suggesting that Alex was either standing near her during the shooting or had fired the shot himself. Alex went quiet. For the first time, he didn't object. A second investigator took over with a question about motive. Are you aware your parents didn't leave a will? That means, if they die suddenly, the entire estate goes to one surviving member, you. Alex's eyes shifted. He quickly said, I don't care about the money. But his digital history said otherwise. Investigators had retrieved a deleted message from his phone, sent 2 days before the murders to a close friend. I'm tired of living like a freeloader. If my whole family vanished, do you think I'd finally live better? The message was printed and laid in front of him. Alex glanced at it, then looked away. Detectives pressed harder. They played on guilt, family bonds, and emotional accountability. You lived with your parents and sister for 20 years. If it wasn't you, who was it? Who else would know where each bedroom was, how to shoot each of them in the head, and then disappear without a trace? This time, Alex sighed. He didn't deny it, but he didn't admit it either. They moved to a crucial detail. Why were all 3 victims shot in the face, clean direct, while you were shot in the leg, from back to front? This was the case's most glaring inconsistency. Forensic analysis confirmed the bullet entered Alex's leg from below at a straight angle, exactly like a self-inflicted wound. A detective asked, "Do you think an intruder with a semi-automatic rifle would aim for your leg and let you live while killing everyone else?" Again, no answer. Alex bowed his head, his hands trembling slightly. He scratched his wrist, a subconscious gesture noted by behavioral experts as a sign of escalating internal tension. Then came another blow. Police showed him video footage from the neighbor's security camera. It covered the entire front of the Jackson home from 10 p.m. the night before to 8 a.m. on the morning of the murder. Not a single stranger appeared. No intruder. His story was falling apart. Detectives weren't done. They brought in a statement from Alex's friend Kyle, who had been interviewed earlier that day. Kyle recounted a night 2 weeks ago when Alex broke down crying after an argument with his father. He said it wasn't fair, that they wanted him to be someone else. He told me he didn't know what to do anymore. Kyle also said Alex had asked, "Do you think someone can be pushed so far they've got nothing left to lose?" This wasn't hard evidence, but it painted a damning psychological portrait of a young man cracking under pressure. The investigators concluded this was never about a break-in. It was the collapse of a son, overwhelmed by failure and expectation, who chose the most destructive way out. Then came the final emotional tactic. They placed a graduation photo of Sabrina on the table, along with a short voice recording of her singing Alex happy birthday. The room fell into silence. Alex closed his eyes, but still, he said nothing. The interrogation ended, for now. Outwardly it seemed like a stalemate, but in truth, all the puzzle pieces were nearly in place. And even though Alex hadn't confessed, what remained was just one thing, a clear, undeniable motive, and that the detectives would soon uncover. 3 days after the murders, the hospital officially discharged Alex Jackson, and police brought him back to headquarters for further questioning. At this point, he was still listed as a surviving witness, not a suspect. But behind the scenes, investigators had already secured warrants to examine all of Alex's personal devices, belongings, and accounts. And that's when the truth began to unfold. While Alex stuck to his original story of a mysterious intruder, the forensic team found the crucial piece of evidence inside his personal laptop. Hidden behind password-encrypted software, analysts recovered a series of digital journal entries, written just weeks before the murders. "I hate feeling like a failure. Every day in this house is suffocating. They just yell and judge. I'm the only one who understands me. If they were gone, maybe life would be easier." Sabrina always played the angel, but she's just like them, fake, always looking down on me like I'm some loser. I don't need their pity anymore. This wasn't a spontaneous outburst. These were the signs of deep-seated resentment, cultivated over time. But that wasn't all. Investigators also found a blueprint of the family home saved as an image file. Each room was marked with numbers. 3 red X marks were drawn, each corresponding exactly to where the victims' bodies were found. This destroyed any remaining argument of coincidence. The final blow came from the gunshot residue, GSR test results. None of the victims had GSR on their hands, meaning they neither fired a weapon nor handled one. Meanwhile, the sleeve of Alex's right arm tested positive for high levels of GSR, consistent with someone who fired multiple rounds from a rifle. With all evidence presented, the investigative team met that night. The decision was unanimous. Alex Jackson would be arrested on 3 counts of first-degree murder. The next morning, the warrant was executed. Alex was arrested while leaving his uncle's home, where he had been staying since his hospital discharge. As he was handcuffed, he didn't resist. He simply asked, "What did they find?" At the station, for the first time, Alex sat in an interrogation room as the primary suspect. A court-appointed defense attorney was present, but Alex chose to speak, almost as if this was his final chess match, and he needed to see if there were any moves left. Detectives laid out the evidence one by one: the surveillance footage, the GSR results, the recovered journal, the floor plan. Alex's expression slowly changed. The stone-cold stare began to fade. He lowered his head. For nearly 40 minutes, he said nothing. Then a detective asked, "If you could do it all over again, what would you change?" Alex smiled. It was faint and hollow. He replied, "No one wants to kill people they once loved, but sometimes it gets to a point where you don't know how else to escape." That was the first confession. Not direct, not complete, but undeniably an admission. From that moment, prosecutors began building the formal case. The trial took place at Lynn County Court, Iowa. It lasted 5 days and attracted national attention. Hundreds lined up to attend. Alex's defense attorney argued that he suffered from undiagnosed emotional and mental disorders brought on by years of parental pressure. But a psychiatric evaluation ruled that Alex was fully competent and legally responsible at the time of the murders. The prosecution presented a clear narrative. The crime was premeditated, the victims were targeted, the method of killing was deliberate and final. And most of all, only Alex survived, with a non-fatal wound. One juror later revealed, "We reached consensus quickly. This wasn't a breakdown, it was a calculated decision." At the end of the 5th day, the jury found Alex Jackson guilty on all 3 counts of first-degree murder, sentencing him to 3 consecutive life sentences without parole. At a press conference following the verdict, Lieutenant Samuel Brenner, the lead investigator, stated, "We had doubts, we had dead ends, but we never gave up. When a family is wiped out, the person responsible is often closer than we think. The real challenge is seeing the truth behind what appears to be a reasonable story." Alex is a tragic example of what unchecked pressure and isolation can lead to. But no amount of frustration justifies taking innocent lives. Justice has been served. The Jackson Family Massacre ended with a verdict that left no room for doubt. 3 life sentences handed down to the family's own son, Alex Jackson. It began with a 911 call reporting a home invasion. But as the investigation unfolded, piece by piece, the illusion crumbled. The only survivor turned out to be the architect of the tragedy. Behind his emotionless expression was a storm of psychological wounds, emotional repression, and a motive quietly brewing over time. Alex wasn't insane. He wasn't delusional or out of touch with reality. He was a young man crushed under the weight of expectations, failure, and pressure. But instead of confronting those struggles, he chose to annihilate the very people who loved him most. This case became one of the most shocking events in Iowa in over a decade. Not just for its brutality, but because it showed that evil doesn't always come from the outside. It can grow silently within the walls of a family home. The police did their job relentlessly, methodically, and patiently. They didn't rush to judgment. They let the evidence speak, and when it did, it told a story no one wanted to believe. The trial is over. The sentence has been handed down. But for those left behind, extended family, friends, and neighbors, the pain will never truly fade. They didn't just lose 3 loved ones. They lost them at the hands of someone who shared their blood. For the investigators, the case left a mark. Not because it was difficult, but because it forced them to confront a grim truth. Sometimes, the person you live with is the one you should fear the most. Alex Jackson's story is a wake-up call for families, for schools, for society. Silence is not always peace. Suppressed emotions, unresolved resentment, unrealistic expectations, they can turn someone into the author of their own family's destruction. And in a tragedy like this, no one walks away whole. All that remains is the aftermath.